Are we all ready to start? Okay. I'd like to call the November 13th Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting into order. We start with the roll call, please.
Yes. Aaron Angel, not here. Scott Conlon.
Present.
Thomas Davis.
Present.
Paige Lewis.
Here.
Sam Libby.
Here.
Nicholas Novello.
Here.
Dan Olson.
Here.
And Council Liaison Tim Waters is not here.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda
Can I get a
as it is.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Passes unanimously. Let's move on to the minutes. Are there any edits to the minutes? If not, I'll need a motion to approve. Okay,
I move to approve the minutes as written.
great.
I'll second.
Thanks, you're a good team.
Now we're done.
All in favor? You seen it? Great.
All right.
Passes unanimously. So it looks like we do have some public invited to be heard. Do you have a list or no? No?
We need to sign up
Okay.
to talk, but are you just listening? No.
So, Diane.
Yeah. Aggravate myself. So I'm Diane Christ. I'm the vice chair of the Transportation Board. And we usually meet at the same time, but it was canceled today, so I'm taking the opportunity to come see the Park and Recreation Board. I think it was Nicholas and Harrison Erlin and I that had a conversation with the city about how it would be kind of nice to have a little more time to relate to other boards and see what you all are doing and coordinate a bit. I don't want to say coordinate, but just understand what's going on in the city between each board. I'm the vice chair of the Transportation Board, and I'm just recently elected to Tim Waters' seat that he's evacuating. So that'll come into effect in December. So, yeah. So I just wanted to see what is going on with the Park and Recreation Board. I think you have some interesting projects. And we just want to see how it could relate maybe with the Transportation Board and other things that are going on with the city. So that's all I had to say. I just wanted to introduce myself while I was here.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
You'll be off the transportation board soon, or maybe as council liaison, or or maybe you'll be here.
I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
Okay.
And our liaison is Councilor Yarborough, so she and I'll have a conversation about that. But sometimes it seems like, once you leave a position, maybe you should just leave a position, And Councilor Waters is on a couple of boards, so let's see what he has when he is evacuating. And in January, we'll sort of renegotiate, the whole city council will renegotiate who goes where and when.
Cool.
Great, thank you. And you didn't want to speak? You're just listening? Great.
I'm here for the parks.
Okay.
I just want to hear about the new park.
Oh, great. Okay, well, let's move on to old business. So discussing the results of the ballot initiative.
Can I actually start this one? I just would like to say, for someone sitting on the side a little bit of this and watching this board working on this, I just want to thank all of you for the work you did. It was a lot of work out there, and I know there was a lot of challenges that some did it. You all did a lot, but Scott, no one can doubt everything you put into this, and I saw that from the staff side and the public side. So there's been postmortems, it can get painful, but I just want to acknowledge all the work that we did on this, and I want to say thank you.
Especially to Scott.
Yeah.
I agree.
Zero effectiveness.
So you want to start it off?
Well, clearly, I think our only effective position was to probably stave off a bigger loss. I don't know. It was pretty much across the board, statistically the same number. There's 2 to 1. Voters voted against it. The county's numbers aren't in yet in terms of who voted, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's pretty much odd year voters are the ones who showed up. So And so that's what kills, these type of things, is having those folks vote. So we're,
Only those folks.
only
Right,
those folks
right.
vote, right, yeah. It's, and then, people time and time again, said it's, bad time to ask for money when property taxes are up. So that's just how it goes. There's no real opposition, right? There's, if you put it in Dry Creek, people in Dry Creek are worried about traffic. If you put it in North Longmont, people in North Longmont are gonna worry about traffic. So, just whichever way it's split, there's some sort of thing. So, at mixing the Y and Centennial Pool with the new rec center didn't really hurt, right? Because there was no real difference in the vote otherwise. People said that, but I don't think that really created much of a thing. I think we still had the same issue. We're gonna do a survey after, when the statistics come out, so we could, test that whole idea, but I don't think that was really the problem. I think people just voted financially, and that was it. They already had it in their mind to just go no across the board, and that's what happened. So, it'll be interesting.
Do you have any data, Jeff?
Yeah.
No,
No.
not yet.
Okay.
I would agree with what Scott said. I don't know whether it would have made a difference if the Y was on its own one way or another, but I, at this point, wished it would have been just to see what the
Just to
results
see.
would have been.
It's a safe
But I can't say that it made it worse or better. I think it made it different because clearly there are people that love the Y and didn't know why the Y was working with the city. And clearly there are people that don't really care for the Y and would have liked to see the rec center be on its own. I think in the months and weeks to come, we'll be doing some debrief and then also starting a process with the public to just get a read on what they would like to do. I think the other issue is having 3 questions on the ballot was hard for people. I think the thought behind that was people would vote, if you only put recreation on there, well, I'm not gonna vote for that because I really want the library. So it's kind of that give and take that I think Scott was trying to describe it as well, as far as where to build it, where not to build it. So I think as the coming months and weeks, we'll be coming back to you and doing more of a debrief with you all, or we can start that tonight. I will tell you, and I can't speak for Ben or for Scott, that pretty disappointed in the results. I didn't know that it would pass, but I didn't think it would be as one-sided as it was. And the feedback we as staff get on a regular basis is that people want another rec center, and they want basically a newer version of what we have at the Longmont Rec Center. And I think that the timing of the new assessment was very hard on things, and then just in general inflation and people not wanting to take the chance of paying more in taxes, which I certainly can't blame them for that.
I do think it's worth a conversation with city council that we started kind of at the last meeting, I think, of, it's really challenging, I think, when the city works to put an item on the ballot and then basically steps back. And, you guys were able to represent, and we, appreciated that, to answer factual questions, but when the city is not able or willing to invest in really promoting something that they've worked hard to put on the ballot, I think it's asking a lot of volunteer citizens to sort of raise their own, spend their own time and resources to advocate for something like that. There's always going to be a balance needed. You couldn't certainly go out and advocate just as an independent citizen could, but I do think it's worth a conversation. I'm not sure, what the city can put forward if they continue in that position that would be really feasible to pass in the sort of political climate that we find ourselves in. So I think it's worth talking more about that reality. And I also think that having 3 items on the ballot, 3 big items, was really overwhelming for people.
That failed at a similar rate.
Similar
And
rate.
so
I
it's
think
like,
people just
people
like
were
look
like
at it.
all or none. I mean,
Yeah, tax
know,
after tax after
2 to 1,
tax.
none versus all,
So
yeah.
I think again, like having priorities, prioritizing what's gonna go on the ballot and, enabling staff to support that in a little bit more robust way.
I think one of the things that we as staff need to do is work with some of the other communities that have passed elections, just to see what kind of restrictions their organizations have put on it, on them. I think that timing is a big thing. I don't know if anybody saw the paper today, but the school district announced that they are going to have things on the ballot in '24, which I think that's what we need to do as we move forward, is make an announcement early so that we have a extended period of time where staff can work with the public to not only share what our thoughts were, but certainly to gather feedback from our community, come up with a plan, and have a group that is going to advocate for the project, that when we do get to the time where we can't talk anymore, that group can really carry the torch with as much information as what staff might have.
All right, I would just add to that, the feeling of, everything was really at the end, and being prepared more around January, that the city, when we can do things, January, like Jeff said, presenting that out to the public January through July, rather than making a decision in the middle of July and really not knowing until that point what we were doing.
I'd also like to throw in the city manager promised something that never got delivered, which was that there was going to be an agreement in place between the Y and the city, to city council, and that really took a huge amount of communication time, because people are like, well, let's see what the agreement says. Like, if it really is that it's going to be a public access or public-private partnership, they'd feel better about it. I mean, I don't know if these things overcome a 2 to 1 loss, but these things add up. And it just, we did start with a project that really came to us in April or May, and they got thrown onto the ballot like last minute, and that was a big problem. But you can't have things that go on city council meetings and then not respond to them, right? Like, this is, at least city has to say, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is not gonna happen, or whatever, because it was like a lot of playing defense about, what pricing structures or what access would look like for people who live, in Mountain View and Ashley, sort of thing. City communications too, really promised a Spanish version of the voter guide and never delivered one. That's really unfair, especially since I had a list of 30 people who asked for it. The Y wanted to get out to a third of their membership. There's a general communications problem in the city anyway, between that and a position stance, those are really institutional problems that need to be overcome for whatever the ballot measure is going to be.
I just added that, I thought the mailer was great, the English version that went out was really great, and we talked about it in the last meeting, it hadn't gone out yet, I think, and we couldn't get it on the website. There was nothing on the website that was like that, and it was really quite a compelling and detailed explanation of the ballot measures and what they were impacting and everything, and I would love to put people to that, but all I could say was look in your mailbox.
Right, exactly.
It was on the website.
Not, but maybe a week before the election, like it was really,
Not,
It was-
yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
until,
and I know we were all rushed. I'm just saying, I want to say it was really good. And that was the kind of information I think people want to see, is it was a little more nuanced than the Tabor language they see in the book.
Oh,
in the
and big
ballot.
poster size versions at the rec centers
Yeah.
of that should have, I mean, a month ahead. These big, you know, and especially like you said in January, when all the people have New Year's resolutions and, wow, it's crowded. Well, let's have a new rec center. I mean, that's the time, you know, like you said, 6 months in advance of when we did it last time. And I agree, the thing that did come out was very nice. It was really late in the game.
the challenge with it though is it doesn't really answer the questions that we were getting at the public meetings. It was the city side of it, here's what you're voting on, and
Right.
here's what it's gonna cost. It didn't really say, why did you pick Dry Creek? Why aren't you building in Northwest Longmont?
Right.
Those are really the things that people wanted
What's
to hear
happening to
about.
the Sled Hill?
Yeah, the sledding hill is a big thing.
And I think they really want to hear from, like, you guys be able to say, we think this is a great idea. The city really needs this. You know, we think here's what we see.
Every
and
day
why you
staff
should vote
complains.
for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I think it's kind of weird when you're at a public meeting and the city, like, officials are being really careful for really good reasons.
Well, it's even
But
worse when the Y
It seems
doesn't
like you
have
don't
that
really want
restriction.
it, you know? I mean, and we know that's not
Yeah.
true, but I think
Yeah.
it does a disservice. to
Yeah, we
the
looked like
city.
bumps on a log.
Yeah.
That is the key of why things have to be in place. We need to be inviting ourselves to other public meetings so that we can state the facts as we see them prior to not being able to say anything but what has been approved by the comms team and our legal department.
And I think clarifying whether that's the only interpretation of
Yes.
that there can be. I exploring what other communities are able to do would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go down.
What, did we rush? So last spring, should we have said 2024? I felt like we were in a hurry because we got input from Tim, from you all,
Yeah, that
that we need to
survey.
get this going.
I think the challenge with 24 was that the district was gonna go to an election, and the city tends to not put things on the ballot of this nature so that they're not competing. And so 23 was why that was picked, or it would have had to go out to 25.
People did indicate to me that they were just overwhelmed. It was just an overwhelming amount of like amenities to be voted on. And I don't know, including my own, any person under the age of 25 that voted on this. They were just super unaware of any of the issues.
I think that was a challenge across the board, not just with young people, because unless you read the Times Call or the Longmont
Young people
Leader,
don't.
people did, you know, we had one of the public meetings and somebody made the comment, I didn't even know that you were having an election until I read it in Reddit. Do you remember that? And it's like, what's Reddit? So
Yeah.
clearly, you know, what used to be, you know, I'll never forget in 1999 when the Longmont Rec Center was on the ballot, the Times Call had the center part of the paper, 2 full pages, talking about what a great facility, design, a great process, and something that we really needed.
For all of that was the museum, the
Yeah,
senior
the
center,
whole-
et cetera.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of that sort of thing happened.
They asked
Yeah.
for,
What's that?
they just asked for a bundle of cash to put an ad, and that was
Yeah.
all they did.
Exactly. And then the chamber coming out against was at the very end was almost the nail in the coffin. You know, that was really not good for us. And I will just say a little disappointing, because I don't think they ever talked to any, they didn't talk to me, I don't think they talked with Scott, and they didn't talk with Ben, so I don't,
They didn't even talk with me.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Like, what?
I don't know what,
As a private citizen, that's pretty disappointing for them to take that kind of a political stance against something that would be for the benefit of the community. I mean, that was a real, that made me think twice about the Chamber of Commerce.
What I got from the chamber is that there's a little bit of a push by a couple of members of the chamber that made it a public vote. Otherwise, they would have usually have stood back.
Yeah.
And Scott didn't seem to be able to control those people, so, which is, yeah, that's really disappointing. I think the other side, and just building, like, in trying to, you know, what do you do next time, is building a coalition in recreation is really difficult.
Yeah.
Right? It's
really.
it's disparate, like the swimming people have different needs than the pickleball people, and everybody has their own little space, and unless it's designed in and you fit their specific space, it was what we heard from swimming, you don't really have their ear, and it's like a lot of small groups. It's not like all of library or whatever, so it was really difficult getting those groups to be excited and to just embrace like recreation in general. There's even outdoor sports versus indoor sports. People fighting about, well, there should be more trails before I spend more money on recreation. I'm not saying any particular organization that I'm with, we have said that, but yeah, it's just really tough that you don't have this natural group to really, you know.
You're starting from a
get-
subset too.
Yeah.
You probably have numbers on this
Yeah.
of how many people in Longmont have actually ever used a rec facility.
Yeah.
But it's certainly less than a half of the population, I would guess.
on a regular basis, yeah.
Or
You know, but
even
I,
ever, I would guess it's pretty low.
20% depending,
Right.
but that's a moving target,
Right.
because some people might be there every week, some people might only go once a year.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult to really track how many people are out in the parks or out on the greenway. As far as individuals, I think there are things that parks will be doing in the future to be able to do number counts of how many people are using the greenways, but that's not gonna tell you that it was David and I 100 times. But,
I know
yeah,
the numbers.
And
It's a hard thing to do to connect people to the understanding that that's all part of the same system.
Yes.
That they don't just expect it to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Scott said, there's no real energy for people that want to take swim lessons. There's not any energy for drop-in basketball. It's more of those swimming groups and athletic groups that have the biggest pull, but we didn't even see them come together really, and you know, some of the swimming folks were wanting us to put the competitive pool back on the ballot, and we already did that, and it did not fail, or it did fail, and it did make sense to put that on again.
I do think it's gonna be important to clarify, like make it really clear what the situation with Centennial is.
Yeah.
Because I do think there were we heard a lot of people, I think, that just like didn't buy it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if we don't vote for this, Centennial will get repaired and it'll be there.
Yes.
And I think there just was not an understanding that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Or I mean, at least that's what we're hearing, is that that's not the case. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of reluctance to support something else. It's like, well, I'm just gonna hold out and get what I want.
Well, and I don't think people know how property taxes work, right? Like, there's like big problems with that, right? Like, they go up because everything costs more.
People also don't know how the city's funded.
Yeah, exactly.
People just have no idea how all of it works, and so it's very scary to say, to read $20 million a year. That's all people read. Indefinitely is how the language looks in the ballot.
Right, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
language is really hard.
Yeah, not for 3 years, but just forever.
There's a belief that the city has a lot of money and that they could
Absolutely.
just write a check for
Right.
$72 million.
And that you're choosing to not fix the roads and not
Yeah.
build these things, and yeah, it's
So
hard to overcome that.
Speaking of Centennial, we passed something else 4 or 5 years ago. Is that back on the table? We're kind of waiting, or my understanding
Well,
was.
we were, but it's my understanding that money is no longer there available because of the interest rates, that money that was debted already took everything, so the 800 and some thousand is no longer there to do any
Is
work.
that legal?
It must be, the city did it.
Wow.
I didn't do it.
No,
but
no, I'm
that's-
just surprised, and when we passed an issue like that, I assumed it was for something.
It is, but I think we have gone through the last few years with a real different set of costs going up. And the year before, or no, that same year, golf also passed
Right.
6.1 million. That number for golf right now is closer to 8.5 million for us to do most of what was.
I saw all
on
the
that.
pipes today at Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, something's happening,
Yeah.
that's what reminded me of Centennial.
So I just think that choices had to be made to move forward with certain projects, and Centennial, because of the unknown, was one that was let go.
There is one very loud master swimmer who won't let this go, Centennial. So, who do I tell him to complain to?
Well, he can complain to Ben. He
You
can
know,
complain to Ben or I. We can talk with him and hear what his concerns are, and
what he said Monday morning, today's Monday.
today.
I swam this morning, it's been a long time ago. Anyway, he said, we passed this bond issue to fix up Centennial or when's that gonna happen? And, that's the first thing that occurs to him after this thing failed, so.
It also, when you have a building that may be on a short.
Oh, no, this is a Band-Aid on this silly,
it
I
makes
agree.
no sense to
But
spend
he's one of these
$800,000.
sticklers for, I voted for this,
Yeah.
money should be that kind of thing.
Yep,
All right.
certainly, we could certainly talk to him.
All right.
I have one more question before we move on. Just what happens on all these different topics now? So like, what's the next steps on the existing rec center? That money didn't get approved, so any of those renovations, none of those are gonna happen.
Correct.
Centennial, what could happen in the next year with Centennial? What happens with the Y generally? Or we don't know yet.
Well, the Y during the public meeting said they continue on as is, and, look at the opportunity for other partners, or to see if they can do that on their own.
But they can't pursue that site because that required the vote to
Yes.
give that land away?
The city charter requires that if parkland is going to be given away, sold, it can only be done by the vote of the residents. So that is not an option until we could go to an election again.
So they're pursuing with something, we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah,
basically.
so I would say at this point, they will be doing their own thing. We will continue to evaluate what we need to do at Centennial and communicate that with council and get their direction on how they would like to handle that.
Okay.
The money for the renovation at the rec center, we were gonna use the recreation impact dollars, about 5 million of that. That can only be used for new construction. So if we would go to a vote just for Centennial, this is all hypothetical because we haven't had any of these conversations. That money could be put into that, put back into to the rec center. The key message that I think all of you, that I'd like you to hear is, if the rec center doesn't have an investment in taking care of the groundwater issues, updating it, we're gonna be having the same conversation at some point in time about the rec center that we're having about Centennial Pool right now. And then the future of another rec center, generally it takes 4 years before we get another chance to go on the ballot. Maybe that's shorter this time, maybe it's longer, but that's kind of what the future is. But I think we, as staff, need to immediately start doing that, those public meetings, getting feedback from the public. The Dry Creek versus Northwest Longmont is a big issue. That my concern is that if we did have land in Northwest Longmont, Southwest Longmont would be upset, would not be in favor of it either. So we really need to do some groundwork with those two areas of town to really get a feel of what would be acceptable to them.
Thanks.
Thanks, well, thanks for the conversation, I'm sure it won't be the last one about this, and thanks to both of you for participating in the public meetings. We appreciate you guys taking time out of normal work hours to join those meetings and support those efforts, so thank you.
Yeah, and our thanks to Scott.
Yeah.
and
You did great.
If anybody wants signs, I have a lot of signs.
I'm sure I could find a way to recycle them into the engineering program as well.
Okay, yeah, the Y's sitting on 200 of them. I've never
Those
met
plastic signs,
Yeah.
yeah, I guarantee that they'll want them for
Okay.
building the middle school engineering
Yeah.
program.
They'll
You
upgrade
can
us
have
stuff.
mine too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we would hate to waste that
Yeah, I
kind of
remember, I've got
materials, right?
like those foam core signs, those foam core signs of that.
Okay, let's move on to new business, Fox Meadows.
Thanks,
I'm
Stephanie.
gonna set that up.
If I could,
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you guys, I'm gonna go now.
if I can start this one too.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna move because I think you're gonna have a new team up here and they should see the table rather than me, and introduce them at that time.
So we do have our new senior, our new PMs have joined. Dave's gonna take the back seat.
Yep,
So we have,
these are your projects.
yeah, oh, thank you. So we have Elisa Champ, who has been with the city for 7 years, but has joined the park team, the park trade development team, as a project manager. And you are working on several projects right now. I think the renewals, Thompson Park renewal, which is in the early stages of just finishing public engagement. What's this week? As well as helping us with one of the 8 and 5 projects, Clover Meadows. And we'll be doing some renewals as we come into '24 that were approved for the CIP. So we're excited to have Elisa on our team and out of Parks Operations where she was prior to, and you were working at Roosevelt and other areas. Yes.
I hated these around Roosevelt, so.
And then we have Trish. Trish joined us 6 weeks ago?
Yep,
7 weeks ago. Trish is a landscape architect, she's a new senior project manager, and she comes to us with a wealth of knowledge on all things playgrounds and landscape design. And you're working on, you're going to be doing the construction portion of Clover Meadows, kind of filling in some gaps right now and some project coverage with regard to the Wortman/Nino Gallo project. And then also assisting the recreation team on some of their efforts with some irrigation work at Twin Peaks and Sunset.
Kensington?
And Kensington Park restroom, she's taking the lead on that piece. And, yeah, so that's pretty good for 7 weeks. So Tatiana, she also just joined us. She comes from Ohio, moved her family across the country to join our team. And you've been here 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yes.
Today is my 3rd week.
Yeah, so
The beginning.
she's gonna be taking the lead, or has already, on Dry Creek Synthetic Turf, one of our 8 and 5s. You're working with Steve on Fox Meadows, so we have some coverage on all of those pieces. And
I'm sorry, Steve, who's Steve?
and Steve would have been here tonight, but he is out of office right now.
Oh,
So you will see
I
Steve
wanted to
again.
tease him, but no, I won't,
You'll have to come back.
I guess.
So we have a lot of things gearing up. Now she is starting week 3, so we've tried not to completely overwhelm her. But yeah, you came from a park district in Ohio.
Which is, I guess, slightly different than a city. It's with the county, and it's funded differently by a tax levy once in 10 years. So it's a very, I guess, separate organization rather than city parks system.
I've heard of that in the Midwest. The town I grew up in had
Yes.
that sort of thing, so that, yeah.
Different legislature enables that.
So she's experienced all the weather.
Yes, in my 2 weeks.
So we did want to give an update. So Fox Meadows Park, one of our first 3, 8 and 5, is the one that had to go through the master planning and the public engagement before. Others were further along, like Clover had already gotten, I think, reached like 60% design and whatnot. Fox Meadows has just finished the public engagement. We do have a conceptual plan which we'll share with you that is the result of the public engagement meetings that we had. We had 3 in total. The first one was to solicit ideas. We had lots of surveys, lots of feedback from the public. I think on average, and you guys were both, between the two of you, at all of them, and I was at 2 of them, maybe 40 people on average at each one. Or 40 households, I should say, were represented. But it's, let me go on to this next. Oh, I'm gonna get the right keyboard here. All right. It's a 9-acre site, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with where this is. It's over by the Fox Meadow Golf Club. Let's see if I've got a plan here. So here's Union Reservoir, here's East County Line Road, and then the Fox Hill Golf Club here. So this site is in the green portion off of Deerwood. It's currently a nice field with some native grasses. Well, they're not native to here, but they're nice grasses. And then next to it, to the east, is a property owned by the St. Vrain Valley School District, which has no development on it at this time. There's been discussion of will it be an elementary school or what. We honestly don't know what it would become. And then, so both of these sites, and I'll go down into, I'm not used to using Teams to do a presentation. Well, as I said, it's the 9-acre park, and it's currently a bowl. It's kind of a detention pond. I'll come back to this slide because I want to get you guys down to where the, so here, so these topos. So here's the low point on the site that we would be putting the park. This is the low point for the future school district site. So taking into account those contours, that drainage, and the need to keep the detention for that neighborhood, just kind of strategically locating the park elements and amenities, what do those look like? And how can we make this entire space successful intentionally, but also being mindful of the existing land contours? So there were lots of ideas suggested by the public. I'm gonna go back up a couple slides, and we tried, wanted to get their input, knowing we do have a budget, but what kind of things did they want to see at the park? And what kind of things do we have proximate to this site that could also serve those needs without going too far? So, things that come up are always pickleball. That was a write-in somebody had put on there. We also had anti-pickleball, so we had both sides of pickleball. We would like an off-leash dog area. We had anti-off-leash dog area. So then we just kind of started to say, okay, let's just look and see where we have these around. So proximate to this site is Clark Centennial, not too far away. And we do have a pickleball, some new pickleball there. Elisa was part of a project to help support operations to get some new pickleball striping at one of the old tennis courts, was it?
Yeah, the old tennis courts there, yeah.
The next new pickleball courts will be at the Coyle campus with that expansion, so that'll be a really nice new facility that could potentially host, tour tournaments and whatnot. Then we have dog off leash areas currently at Stephen Day, Union, and Sandstone, so not too far away from the site, but still wanted to listen. Let's see what we can do with the budget that we have. So this is it kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like right now. So it is some nice established grasses. And it's hard to tell how far it goes down right now just because of the grasses. It's a good amount of retention. So this is one of I think this was the first meeting, just some images we had some storyboards after the presentation, and everyone had stickers, and they could put green stickers on their favorite photos. I think everyone maybe had 4 or 5 stickers that they could put on. And they had several topics like this. They had the landscape, trails and planning, park amenities, and so you could essentially vote for your favorites in each category. Following that effort, the design team went ahead and put together, here's where we went, everyone likes, here's what we were here, maybe they didn't like. You'll see things like that, that's more like the pickleball. It goes off the charts in both directions.
Everybody likes the things.
So 3 concept plans were presented in the second meeting based on what we were hearing in the first meeting. So there was kind of a space adventure edge concept, a fitness on the prairie concept, and a nature play grove concept. We wanted so everyone listened to the basic elements of each conceptual plan that was presented, and then they could also make comments in our surveys on what they didn't like. Things they're still not seeing and things they really have strong feelings about. As a result of the second meeting and going through all the feedback that came in, the nature play concept was the one that really stuck out with the neighbors, the residents that had attended the public meeting. So, you know, this is comprised of more organic forms, natural materials, those types of things. There was also a need or a desire from several to have at least a half basketball court, maybe some fixed sort of games like bocce ball, chess tables, things like that that many different types of park users could use. So with all of that feedback that they received through this public meeting, then they went back and they did put together a conceptual plan for the park that's specific to the Nature Play Grove concept. This was just more imagery that accompanied that concept in the second meeting, but just showing you examples of what that could be, what are used in other areas. So then ultimately this was the concept that they derived after having that public input. So this is starting to outline kind of where all of those different elements will be, with the playground kind of being central, and then having, I think in this one they had 2 shelters and then the restroom building. So they had a shelter here, those are the number 12s, the restroom building being here, number 11. 13, oh, that was the pump house. There is a potential that we'll either, if we use raw water, we'll have to put in a pump house to bring some water over from the country club. But just kind of showing a natural turf amphitheater type hill here, and really playing off those contours that are here in the park, but doing a little cut and fill at the same time. This becoming a sledding hill. Sorry that keeps popping up, because we love, sledding hills are popular. This is where the low point is, so really just letting that be, that's part of the sledding hill. There was discussion of potentially doing an off-leash dog area in this area that kind of is a boundary for the more usable area that's of a higher elevation on this site, to where the detention is. Now I've got, if you'll notice on this legend over here, a couple things that are kind of grayed out a little bit. At this point in time, our contractor, this is a design build project, so they're constantly evaluating where we stand with cost and schedule, and right now we're around 900,000 over with just some of these ideas that the community has provided. So this plan here, we're still trying to bring it back to within budget. So a couple of ideas with that. One being leave as much of the established grass as we can, and go with, still needing to do a little weed control, just to mitigate any weeds that are mixed in with that. Second, we're looking at what is, the fenced dog area, weighing it. We've got some proximate to, not too far away from. It's harder to walk to, but that's a significant cost with all of the infrastructure that would go on with that. The other is a 3-wall handball court. There could be some savings if we did one wall with a different type of concrete versus, I think it's actually a concrete block with a coating on it or whatnot. But just some ideas that are currently being discussed on the design side to bring this back into budget. And I think we have our meeting on that one tomorrow, actually. So we'll have an update next month, kind of where that's trending. But otherwise, it's really a fun play on a bunch of nature type elements. Here I think is a zip line. For the kids, and then also using, I think there's a sled that uses the hill, or not a sled, a slide, and you climb up the hill and you go down it.
Like Chautauqua used to have.
So just some fun, there's some fun elements that really would, appeal to all the ages. At our public meetings, it was a wide range of types of attendees, and so just trying to get a little bit in here for everyone. In this concept, the only actual irrigated turf area would be this portion here in green. And then the trails would be, for the most part, the main routes would be the concrete trail, but there may be some pressure fines, some softer trails sprinkled in. And those haven't been completely defined yet, but it's kind of the early conceptual stage.
Would it save money to not have concrete trails and still be ADA accessible?
Yeah, I think to some extent, that's kind of all of those pieces are what they're weighing right now from the cost perspective. How much could we provide just for ease of, access? And what can we do, to still provide access to the park but not on a hard surface? So all discussions that are underway. Let me see what is back here. So this is kind of some of the precedent images of what they were thinking. Now, the amphitheater, it would just be at this point, one of the cost-saving measures that's been discussed is not to do the retaining walls, but have more of a sloping hill with turf on it. This is what I had mentioned, the 3-wall handball court. Maybe it's just, and it's shared with the basketball court, but maybe it's just one back wall. So you have something to throw something up against, but it's not a true 3-wall court. Yeah, and here's the embankment slide, chess tables. And we're trying to get this on the agenda for city council to review. They haven't seen the conceptual plan. We're trying to get it on for December. I think that's hopeful at this point, just because it does take a bit. I've had my entry into the system, but I haven't heard from anyone. So I have no idea. I'm thinking it might be January before we can actually get on the agenda. But I wanted to open it up for feedback and share that we do have this name for the park out for public input, and we have received all of 3 presentable names that I will share with you.
Is one of them Future Pop?
It's not, strangely.
Oh, really?
I know, right?
That's
It's
the one I
already
brought
got
up
that.
several years
Yeah.
ago, because that's what the sign says. It's been there
If it
for-
was gonna be the Astro Park, then I think that would be good, but now I think we have to change it.
Yeah, I'll just skip to
The
that. So
but I
very
liked your idea.
boisterous person who told me that has moved out of Longmont. So maybe it doesn't have it invested anymore, but
So the names that have come back are Fox Meadows Park,
One show.
Fox Hollow Park. They see it as a place where it's like a hideout or a play set, Hollow. And then Leona Staker Park. So she was the mayor. I wasn't here at the time, but Stacker.
yes.
And so it just says during her term as mayor, she had foresight to see the need for fiber optics and was successful in getting the city ringed with the technology. It was her efforts that resulted in our current award-winning Next Light high-speed internet many years later. Although over 25 years removed from her mayoral position, she is still Longmont's biggest cheerleader. So we're open to other name suggestions as well. And it's on our website, on the Fox Meadow page. Well, let me click and vote.
I know how things got named, like Left Hand Creek Park, it's not even a thing, that's Far Park. And like Pagoda Park. And like those are the colloquial names. Like then
Is Pagoda Park Kanemoto?
yeah, Pagoda Park, and then there's Spinney Park, and there's like things like this. This could be, Log Park. Like that's what kids that's what families end up using anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like that nobody knows where Leona Staker Park is. You know what I mean? They're not gonna know that. So my vote's for Hollow.
What's the time frame for deciding? How long do people have to suggest or vote?
We'd like to have some suggestions ready when we get this on council's agenda. So as I said, it's looking like that's probably gonna be January. So, and then our communications team is gonna push this on social media a little bit to get more votes out there. So we just have had very little response. We even solicited name suggestions on the slips of paper at the meetings, and no one was suggesting anything, so.
Foxy Loxy Park.
Foxy Luxy.
Well, in one of your early pictures, the Future Park sign is there.
Yeah.
I know. That might have been why one of the concepts was kind of a space theme.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun to play with. But the timeline, so the design will be going into May, and then we'll start with the construction portion of the park. This one is slated to be completed by early January of '25. And I believe that is it.
It's really beautiful.
It's kind of fun to see where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool that the whole thing's gonna be done in a year-ish. That's, I mean, that's a whole new thing for any of us.
Yeah,
This is a multi-year project normally, that, you know, when Steve would start these, yeah, someday. That's pretty amazing.
But again, thank council for that too, and Harold,
Right.
because it was Steve and now Steve in all this. I mean,
Right.
Stephanie's got a
Yeah.
substantial.
No,
team
I
there, so
understand, I just think the
I
whole
think it's amazing
timing
how you
is
do.
amazing, is really, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, and this team is doing, you know, Clover, that is slated to be completed, Clover Meadows Neighborhood Park in the fall of '24, early fall, I think, and Dry Creek shortly thereafter, the synthetic turf field. So it does take a team, but with this team, we're like, wow, we have like
Right.
a lot.
Spend the money
Yeah.
that's just sitting around, right?
Exactly.
I have a quick question. Handball, is that like a big thing? Do people
Some
like
people
have?
had mentioned it and
Okay.
just, you know, and the kids were like, well, we do like to just throw a ball against the wall and save your garage door, and, you know.
Yeah. I guess you can play grounds and stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like a good groundies playground.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm seeing some repeat elements in there though that I'm wondering, like, I'm super cheap. I don't know if anybody knows that, but I'm super cheap in my things. And I see some, if you go down to the elements a little bit, like.
Oh, did you want to go to the pictures?
Yeah. Like, you know, the 2 to 5 year old play, like what's the difference between, like the hollow log up there, I'm using my touch screen, that's not yours. The hollow log up there, I feel like the cute little,
Nail.
snail, that's adorable and all, but the tunnel is great. Have 2 hollow logs.
So none of these are
Yeah,
necessarily what's going in the park,
Oh,
they're just
okay.
concept images.
okay.
The final selections haven't been made.
Okay. And like I'm all for using downed trees in the area. I mean, we're losing a lot of ash trees. Let's use some of those and yeah. It's gonna be beautiful. Really like it.
I noticed there's no parking, that's purposeful, right?
It is a neighborhood park, not a community
Right,
park.
I thought that was the definition, okay. And is street parking
So
possible there?
It is possible, there's 25, I think there, and if anyone could recall, I think it was 25 spots that they counted along this portion of street as it goes around
Deerwood
Deerwood,
there, right.
that
okay.
is available for parallel parking.
I noticed that it's kind of far for a lot of people. They have to go all the way around the.
I'll go back to a better shot here.
Yeah, they have to go all the way around the country club, which is really a forbidding thing to go around. If you are a young person trying to get, yeah, if you're a young person that's trying to get from Rocky Mountain Elementary School to that site, and I just feel like that Rocky Mountain, you know, Rothrock Dell Park isn't super exciting, and that is just such an impoverished area. I wish there was like a way that they could get there better. But I don't doubt Fox Hill is gonna give us a skyway or a tram.
Go
or
down to the railroad tracks, go.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's what it is, and that's just,
Yeah, and even like right here, that's like a big, those are 3 detention ponds that come down the hill from
Oh,
the
cool.
golf course, so that wouldn't even be, there's quite a bit of grade change through here.
but that's cool. I mean, it's cool for a very natural area, also for wildlife. Hopefully there's a lot of wildlife viewing area still in that neighborhood park with you leaving the native grasses
I
and,
think it'll be a good balance, you know, it's really not changing the landscape of the park, but just making it more fun and usable, because right now you look at the park, at the land that will become the park, you don't interact with it.
I tend to see young people needing really natural areas, and like, you know, I have to, for my programs, I have to import in sticks. Like I have to,
There will
I
be
have to
trees
truck
added.
in, yeah, I have to like truck in sticks. Kids wanna play with sticks, kids wanna play in, like there's no place to play hide and seek. So if you leave a lot of grass and leave it nice and long, you know, there's places to play hide and seek, there's a lot of play. And it
So-
can't even be slightly prompted, so people start using it the right way.
This area here is all of that existing grass,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is the irrigated turf, so the
Yeah.
maintained grass. And then all of these, for the most part, there are some existing trees along the perimeter, but the majority of these are added as well to give shade around the play areas and usable areas. So there will be sticks.
Sticks, yeah, I mean, sticks and like things to play with, and I could just see, some of the, maybe the interp would be around, because if it seems like it's fox themed, so around foxes, you know, that should be, it's a red fox area, should be where red fox is, so you have red fox interp, you know, do you see the fox hiding, and, you know, that kind of thing, might be kind of cool, or would be really cool, it's a beautiful, beautiful park. I can't wait to go play there.
Are there any mature cottonwoods in there already? 'Cause you have, like,
There are,
cottonwood
there's a few
grove and
trees,
stuff.
let me see if you can see it in that, any of those photos, and if not, get rid of that little thing there. I can't scroll.
Wow.
But over in the right of way between the sidewalk and the street, there's a few.
Okay.
Not a lot though. There is a tree down in the
You can see
hole
in there in the
right
second,
here.
one,
That's
yeah.
like the low point right there.
in the middle picture to the right of the blue sign, the
Mhm.
future park sign, those are the
Right.
ones that are along the sidewalk, like you
Right.
say.
Yeah.
Those are sidewalk ones, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right
And
along there.
Some decent shade with those trees.
Well, I just, yeah, because, I mean, because in any concept drawing of a park, like, it shows like cottonwood grove. It's like, well, that's what, it'll be there 40 years from now. It's not
Right.
gonna be there anytime soon, so.
Well, this is a good capture and plan view of what's there currently. So.
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
Great, any other questions?
I don't have a question about on the budget topic, right? Trying to go through how do we shave off 900 grand off the budget? I struggle with this question because looking at this, we look at like the dog park was removed. Then I think about like how many houses in the area have dogs versus how many houses in the area play handball. And I just have a hard time seeing that
And I should be, those are the things like we just.
that decision.
We prioritized based on what can we do, how much money can we take back, you know, to put back, make sure that we meet the intent of the budget.
Yeah.
Those items haven't been struck from the plan yet. We're still talking
Right.
through what it will be, but they are towards the end of the priority list, just due to the amenities that are in other proximate parks. And what can we put in this park that might be unique to this park that you can't get to quickly at another park?
Right. And there's all those houses that aren't.
And we're also,
Walk
I mean,
that
no one
area.
wants to lose any amenity, you know, and so just trying to think of what ways can we save, you know, substantial monies, but, you know, the native seed versus, you know, originally it was gonna be to scrape and do a native
Right.
seed mix. And now we're like, no, let's leave what's there, it's beautiful, and let's just treat it for weeds and see if we can put our money other places. So we don't know what the savings that'll be realized from that idea is yet. We do have our meetings on Tuesdays, and tomorrow we're gonna have some
Okay.
of those discussions.
Got it. Yeah, similarly, the amphitheater you mentioned, like the retaining walls being removed, doesn't that reduce the
It does, that
impact
helps
of the
towards it, yeah.
amphitheater? I mean,
Well, so the amphitheater, it's really a place for the kids or the parents to sit and watch the kids play or vice versa.
sure.
And I think that if it's turf and it's on a hill, it'll be just as successful. You know, parents would probably tend to not sit in it as much as the kids would,
Sure.
if there isn't this little stone step to sit on. But it's just, you know, what are the most important pieces of the park?
Right.
How can we appeal to the most users?
I think those trade-offs are kind of what I'm trying to understand a little bit more, but it doesn't, we're not
balance.
quite there yet.
So I'll report back next time.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
about, instead of full retaining walls, like as a slope, like here's a flat boulder over here and maybe one over here and maybe one over here, like just, you know, 3 flat boulders that could function as that seating, that teenager, like I see teenagers on that.
I wanted to see if they had it labeled. There are some boulder elements that are seating areas within this plan as well, that are aside from that amphitheater with the stone wall idea.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly where it is here, but it is a part of the concept that wouldn't be removed. And if you guys recalled, I don't know if any of you recall where they are. This is one of the projects that Steve is managing, so we're covering for him tonight. See if we can, I don't think we can see it in there.
Okay, well, it's exciting to see this coming together. It looks like a fun concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Okay. Thanks for taking time, and really great to see your expanded team. It's awesome. We've been advocating for a long time that there's more project management capacity needed, so it's great to see that become a reality.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, next on the agenda is items from the packet. Does anyone have questions on items from the packet?
Well, I'll just jump right to Nino Gallo Park. Taken a while. Taken a while. And I see some contrast between this park and Nino Gallo in the park. And I just spoke this evening right before I got here to some people from some teenagers from that area. And they're like, "Oh, you mean that field? That's going to be something?" And they're really excited. They don't know about it still. And then I said, "Yeah," and they're like, "So what's going to be there?" And I told them that it's going to be pickleball, and that's going to be a pickleball park and a disc golf park. And they thought that was interesting, but they didn't think that reflected their neighborhood at all. As a neighborhood park, that's more of a community park thing. And I just remember it was a quote from Steve where he's like, "Yeah, it was the easiest thing to do." And I'd been talking about, like, can we get some representation from the area? And I know that there's some efforts made, but when Parks went to the elementary school, they went to an elementary school that none of the kids in that area actually go to. It's the area they're zoned to, but all those kids in that area come from Spanish-speaking families. And if you have a Spanish-speaking family, you don't go to Burlington Elementary School, you go to Indian Peaks, or maybe Timberline, or you get bused all the way, your parents drive you all the way over and you go to one of the charter schools. And so, I don't know, I still think, it's not built out yet. I would love to see some representation. Like, first of all, like, pronouncing the name correctly, Gallo, is really important. It's really important to pronounce that name correctly. And then also some representation. There's still time for representation. No ground has been broken. It's gone over budget, under budget. Things have happened. There's still time for representation. And I know I could get you a large group of families so easily.
So it is going out to bid. It is with our purchasing group now, and they're getting it loaded onto BidNet over the next week.
Kind of seems like that's what's been happening.
We had to wait for the appropriation of the CIP amendment from City Council, which went through on the 24th of October. And so that is what provided that additional funding needed because of the cost difference from, I think it started in 2018 to now. But the design has been completed, I think, since June.
Yeah, I've been mentioning it since I got on board. It's the reason why I got on board, is to represent natural spaces in marginalized communities, and that's my community. Those are my kids. Those are my families. Those families I work with all the time. And they're like, pickleball? What's pickleball? It just doesn't represent the community. We're importing people in that community, and so neighborhood park. And then I see this beautiful park, and I want those kids to have that beautiful park. I want them to have that. I'm not saying that, but I see the difference when you go to our large trailer park area. And
so it's not just pickleball. It's also, there's playgrounds there, shelters. There's a new restroom building, which is actually going to utilize one of those old silos that's over on the property next to it.
That's cool.
And it's going to be put over, so it's going to be like you're going to the restroom in a silo. So we're using that
Okay.
instead of.
So that
And
is-
drawing in that sort of agricultural history of that area too is one of
Okay.
the reasons Steve did that. And again, I don't want to step on your toes, but it has been a long process, and probably not the piece we talk about as we get to staff updates, but it has been hard to engage in those communities. I think we all sit over here saying, you know, we put out the Spanish-speaking flyer, we've gone to that school, but we're not engaging right, and I can talk about that a little bit later too, but I really do think that park is going to have, Steve did work hard to make sure we are including natural, I think we're saying they're not native, but they are, you know, grasses that are, been around, smooth brooms and hay grasses and stuff that, you know, aren't weeds, and they're nice tall grasses that attract pollinators and stuff, and other forage for other plants and stuff, so we're included a very large sort of natural area. We've got walking trails within the area. I
There's
think
an
there's a dog
dog area
because we knew
there.
that area didn't have a lot of backyards, so
Mhm.
I really do think as much as we could do with the input we got, we tried to take it in, but again, when we say neighborhood park, the whole community does get to show up at those meetings, and that can be a hard part too, because we're trying to balance, you know, the neighbors that show up with the community that shows up as well, so.
I just-
I'll talk about more about some.
I
another piece of this.
just, like, I've been a resource, like, I'm just like, why, like, I've been a resource for this, I've been saying, like, that's my, I mean, I work with Casa de la Esperanza all the time, like, there's, Casa de la Esperanza is the heart of that community, and you have a meeting there, I mean, nobody, like, Vanessa, who's the director of that, has still never had been approached, like, never been approached, but, like, I mean, I know it's a county program versus city, but I don't know, it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating because I've been saying, I can get you those people, and I have been hearing for a year and a half, well, it's done, anyway, it's done. And then I'll hear like, oh, click, I just put on another pickleball court. And I said, well, the kids would rather have a soccer field. And then there was immediate, it's like a canned response ready to do that. And so I will just say that I'm super frustrated with that. You've had me as a resource. You still can have that input. You could have that input next week. You could have that input tomorrow night because robotics meets there tomorrow night. Like, you could have, there's no excuse. There's a community center right there that families are at there every single night. Like, I just feel like that there could be better representation for Nino Gallo Park.
I hear what you're saying. I think the challenge with it though is starting over means starting over, which means
I know.
they have to start paying their consultants all over again.
I know.
You have to do all the design again, and you're a year down the road then.
I know, and that's the thing. It's just that it keeps it keeps being it's too late, but it was too late last year when I mentioned this, and then this is a year later, and we still haven't actually started. So I just was throwing it out there because I feel like what I'm saying is fair because like I did say it last year, though I was a little shyer because I was only a few months into the process, but.
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate Jeff saying that, because I feel like mine was to be that canned response you've been hearing, but I think we're so close now, and I think the idea of giving that community, that neighborhood, a park that I think does have some really nice elements into it is valuable, and if we miss an opportunity, I won't jump into my other presentation here, but I'll talk about it in a little bit too, and it is a missed opportunity. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I think though that getting this park out and getting it something that those kids will have, and it will have those nature spaces, and it will have quiet spaces, it'll have a playground, and it will have a really unique, like say, restroom that incorporate that agriculture heritage into it. So,
and there is lawn space for
Yes.
soccer play too.
And they really need a new Groundies park, a new place to play Groundies, I tell you. It's getting old, they're tiny little structure, they need more Groundies. So that's the representation I've already heard from that. But I just wanted to, I kind of wanted to vent on that because I feel like it's been there. But we want a park.
right.
That's the big one. We do want a
Yes.
park.
It's taken a bit to get some of these older projects up and going again, but that park's running right alongside these other parks that we're doing for 8 and 5. So it also will be completed about the same time frame as Fox Meadows. So they're all running concurrently. In a year, I hope that we can say, wow, we just added, 3 parks and synthetic fields at Dry Creek, plus all these park renewals that we're doing. So it's not just even these parks, it's other parks as well. But, 2 weeks, 7 weeks. You've been here since May, we're getting
I mean,
I just said- I just said for a whole month.
honestly, I said all this negative stuff, like, I'm really pleased, and I'm so excited about what you're gonna talk about next, like, I'm so excited about that, and, yeah, like, and with that, and so maybe I should have waited, like,
That's okay. I
Yeah.
think it's a fair comment, and I really do have a piece of me saying, I want to see these things done. We waited a long time to do this. This group has, like you say, we keep saying 8 and 5, but it's 8 and 5 plus renewals, plus, Gallows, plus, it's,
I gotta
Yeah.
correct you,
Yes.
Gallo. Like, we live in Colorado, we all speak Spanish because we say the name of our state, Gallo.
It's the
It's
2
really
L's
important.
It's a
and
two-
Y, right?
yeah.
2 L's make a yeah, like, it's really important to get his name right, sorry.
So, but
Sorry,
I'm
like-
just gonna tell you the reason that, I don't know who you've talked to, but when his daughter did the work with us, I was trying to do that double L too, and
Oh, well, maybe,
So
well,
I
I
was
could
gonna
be
make sure-
totally, okay, I could say it, like, I've been on camera saying this, but everybody in the community's told me it's
yeah,
Gallo.
so that's why it's,
But
I would say
I
as I
could be
read it,
wrong,
but
'cause I
it was
I
her
didn't know
daughter
the
was
dude.
the
I
one,
heard
or
he's
his
really
daughter was the
awesome
one
now.
that showed up with some presentations. And I
Yeah,
went the way that she was saying, so I apologize,
I-
we may have to learn something. from
you know
both of
what,
us.
I could apologize, I could be totally wrong too,
Yeah.
but everybody told me, oh yeah, he was the coolest dude.
Yeah,
Gallo. So, sorry.
no, that's,
Well, this is Colorado, so we have Louisville and we
I
have.
know,
so,
we
you
do.
just, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
it is.
we're like, I just like, I wanna make sure he
Right.
gets his thing.
Well, I think you have to acknowledge it with whatever his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever his daughter
Whatever
says, I guess
says,
that's it, yeah, the community all like said,
Right.
like.
If you wanna go that way, you gotta.
You're right, you're right.
Scott,
Very good.
you have something?
Yeah, 2 quick ones, I would think. One, Spring Gulch 2, Phase 3, looks like it's going madly fast, because I saw like the path cut out, and then I saw concrete down, I think.
Got pictures.
Oh my gosh, I was just like,
We have an update.
Cool.
you know, of course, you're not getting credit for it.
Yeah,
People are saying
exactly.
it's because it's Longmont Climbing Creative is making the, I'm like, that's not the case, but.
So look at this graphic here. So the areas in blue, so here is phase 3 from this line. Let me find the road. Okay, there's the parking lot. So along here and all the way to Sandstone. So the areas in blue are the sections of concrete that have been poured. The areas in red are areas that will be poured by hand in the spring, because that's where they're doing the underpass under the train tracks. And then here they have a bridge. Bridge? Trish is helping with this one. There's a bridge somewhere.
It's just-
And then,
must be.
and then green will be hand poured this week on Thursday.
Oh, wow.
So, and this is what it looks like in the poured sections now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Scott, that did happen really fast.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, none of that blue was there, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's a ditch
Is
crossing.
that because we got Tatiana?
Yeah, it comes in.
Trish
She just came, she just poured the concrete.
Trish is actually, she's helping give some support for Alden, who's managing the project, so.
Awesome.
But yeah, we walked it one day and got a tour, and it was really exciting. It was before the concrete. It was, actually, it wasn't muddy. I guess it had been so muddy that it sticks to your boots, and then you get
Oh,
bigger
you
and
get
bigger.
that thick, yeah,
It's
clay,
like,
yeah,
yeah. So that is the status on that piece.
You can see it driving in on 119, because I was there like Thursday. What? I mean, totally,
Right,
it shocked me, just,
Yeah.
what? There's concrete, yeah.
Yeah, so the underpass is still sometime in the spring to complete. Okay, so yeah, so that was super exciting. I don't know if I asked this last month, but the soils question, I got probably 30 times in the last 30 days, so Isaac, I know there isn't a contractor yet, but for Isaac Walton, the soils that are going back to Dry Creek,
Are
are they
not.
going back to the same spot, or are they gonna go to the west side?
Initially, they're going to the same spot.
Okay, all right.
So our plan with that, Tatiana's on the Dry Creek synthetic turf project.
Okay.
And you're working to get a meeting scheduled here.
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
A
so
meeting
if you could-
scheduled in December?
In December, yes.
Do you have a date yet?
No, no date because of the consultant. They need to figure out when they will be ready for the meeting.
Okay.
And-
At that meeting, it'll be a neighborhood meeting, and we're going to have Josh with our group that's over working with the Isaac Walton levy and removal and relocation of the sledding hill. He's gonna attend that meeting as well and answer questions about that scope of work that'll be occurring, and those are gonna be occurring at the same time. So there's some logistics to work out with that piece as well.
Is that
Regards to
something
site
you could
access.
send to the board, the date for that?
Yep.
That would be really helpful.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So we're just going ahead and building in the area that was gonna be the rec center, right? Like this is what I was
No.
confused. Okay.
Building what?
No, they're moving they're taking the soil, well, you guys can say what you're doing.
Okay, but
They're
like
taking
that-
the soils for
You
another
mean the
project.
unofficial sledding hill?
Yeah, no, I was talking, like, cause you were saying like, you know, all the, like, cause it looked like there was stuff going in there, like around where the, maybe, that's why I asked. Okay, you're looking at me confused, it's cause I was confused too. I thought that was all going in the area, like the artificial, the synthetic turf and all this stuff was going in the area that was gonna be the rec center, the same thing. Okay, I'm confused.
The synthetic turf is directly south of the high school. There's a detention pond, and then it's an existing grouping of fields. I can show you.
Okay.
Where the
It's
fields
just
are
the
now,
fields.
yeah.
Okay,
And the grass doesn't grow,
okay.
so synthetic turf is gonna be put in.
Okay, I thought it was like new fields besides that, okay,
So this is where
okay,
the fields will be going, where the cricket pitch is and these fields. that You can
Okay.
kind of see striped.
I thought the cricket.
The cricket pitch is gonna stay where it is. And
Okay.
it's not going to become synthetic, I believe. Last we talked about it.
And
And this
that's
is
based on cricket people.
their feedback.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
This is the unofficial sledding hill, so they're gonna take some of this soil and move it to the new levee, and then bring some of that soil and bring it back here. Dry Creek's Community Park Phase 2 is when this unofficial sledding hill moves to permanent sledding hill location on the other side of the park.
Okay.
There is not a time frame on that park yet.
Great. Okay, I think Nicholas had a question.
Yes, next page. I had a question on the Longmont Ice Pavilion. I see we have new glycol cooling mats. So I guess my question is this a band, because I think we've talked about this before, where the equipment is aging and kind of getting to the end of life. Is this a Band-Aid that's gonna help us extend the life of the program a little longer, or is this more permanent?
Well, it could be either,
Well, okay.
because we weren't gonna be running it without new mats. The mats were leaking all over the place. and
Right.
Had to get repaired a lot, so this had to get done now to continue for the short term. But if it continues long term, then these need to be there anyway. So it's both.
Okay, but there's still the other equipment, the ice making machine in the first place. That is not
Chiller.
the chiller. It's called. Thank
There
you.
is no current plan to,
That's a much more expensive.
yeah,
Okay,
I think it's probably $700,000 at this point,
Yeah.
just for a chiller.
I see.
So it's quite the thing.
Okay, so this is extending the life maybe, but not going to quite completely resolve the issue.
Yeah, I mean, our plan going in to the possibility of ice being built
Right.
was that we can keep this thing going for 2 to 3 years. Can't guarantee it, because if the chiller goes down,
There's
we're just
no
done.
glycol
We're just
chilling
done.
mat is gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, chilling, glycol mats aren't gonna help it if they can't get cold glycol to it.
Right.
But that being said, we believe if that doesn't occur, we can keep it going for the next couple of years. And we have some investment dollars from the city to do that. So that's where we stand right now. And now that the vote happened, then new decisions will have to be made over time that we don't have any answers on yet because we were waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, if the ice at the Y was going to be built,
Right.
the pavilion would have closed down.
Right.
But we had to get a couple more years.
Yeah. Yeah, if it passed, we're still 2 years out, so we wanted to at least,
And we have new
Similar,
fencing, some new fencing
I noticed
to
that
make
too.
the security around it a a lot better, in my opinion. We just painted the building. Just try and keep it nice, keep it as nice as we can. It's a great facility, we all love it, and want to keep going.
I was gonna, since you asked that, that was one of my questions too, was what would be the process to begin thinking about sort of extending that for like 5-year period, recognizing how long it takes before any
It's-
kind of
It's
ballot
something we'll have to
initiative could be
go through
done.
the budget process. That's, in my opinion, right, we need to get into the budget process of how much needs to be spent to look at 5+ years, which means a new chiller. That's
And you
really
guys
what that
have,
means.
like, do you know, I mean,
We have a
would you
whole
be able to
list.
share with the board sort of what's needed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like we have probably,
Yeah,
at some
but we
point, we
can-
certainly, yeah.
Is it like a CIP item on that exists for this?
It's more of a
Maintenance.
capital replacement item.
Yeah, so it's
Replacement item.
PBF.
That's a different thing.
That sounds
Is
better.
there a game on
We're not
too?
there yet. That sounds like perfect.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, it'd just be helpful to
that's PBF
understand what
145,
the key
is
elements
where
of
those
that
dollars
would be.
come.
Okay.
So we put in requests for that for 5 years out, but we also can move that money around a little bit during that time, so. But specifically, the chiller would be, our thought, and we'll take guidance from Harold on which way to go with this, is there would be a capital one-time item request,
Right.
because that's a big one. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll need to start making new plans now.
Well, I think it's connected to the ice, the other ice programs too, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the packet?
How will we know when the firewood goes on sale, or the Antelope Park free firewood? 'Cause I could use some free firewood.
We can either, it'll probably be Brett's update, or we'll get it, make sure it's on the website too.
I want some free firewood.
Okay, items from staff? Did you,
All right. But I will touch on, last week I was actually in Austin, Texas with Taylor, who's a volunteer coordinator, and individuals from Community and Family Services, Youth Services, and it was also in partnership with Longmont Foundation, who wasn't able to make it, and then Thorn Institute. And it really was a grant that the city got. They paid for us all to go down there, and what they're really looking to do is when we talk about these communities that don't show up at all of our meetings, we put them on, like, well, we did our part, we sent out the flyers, and like, well, they had their chance. We know we're missing something. And I think we keep using the same tools over and over and saying, you know, why aren't they showing up? Why aren't they engaging? So this really is, how do we work with those communities to see what they need from us so that we can do a better job engaging with them? And I think one of the things that we really talk about there is taking people in your spot where, you know, you have those connections or people in that community, they can actually be paid to be that liaison and not just kind of all come back to the same people and say, hey, we have a need to engage with the community, can you do this for us, can you do this for us? But looking at how we do a better job of that. So it really is an ongoing conversation for like next at least year to figure out how we do a better job of saying we want to engage this community in our parks and in our natural areas instead of us keep coming with great ideas in this room with these demographics and saying, here's what we have for you. How do we do a better job of asking what you want and asking how we do a better job of having you show up and have your voices heard.
Kind
so
of
it
like a promotora,
can you tell me what?
like the promotora, like of it, so it's like finding community leaders with
Yes.
connections already
Yes.
and but paying them for their time, which I
Exactly.
love that aspect.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a great event. I was kind of tagged on last minute because they're trying to get these grants out. They wanted the commitment from the leadership of the city to be there. There were city council members there. It was a great group of people down there from other communities. I think we were one of 7 cities that got these grants, everywhere from Massachusetts to California and then us in between. It was a great group of people trying to figure out how they do more for these communities that they know are out there within their community, but we know are underrepresented in our park system and especially our natural areas.
So glad we got to do that. I'm really excited.
you
Did Rachel get to
you
go?
weren't here for the
Yes.
presentation that they did. I was so sad that you missed it. It
I
was
felt
really-
bad. Yeah.
And That's the other thing too, again, it'd be great to have Rachel and Taylor come back and continue to update this group on how we're moving forward. So we have some work to do internally as we come back and do stakeholder groups internally, and then, really updating our leadership within the city and what we'd like to do, because this is at least a 2-year commitment, and then really reaching out into the community to see how we build that relationship too.
So I'd actually like to ask that we maybe consider making that like a standing agenda item, because I do think it's a really important initiative that you're doing and could really have a big impact on how the city engages with communities and, around parks and park use, and so I want to make sure Brad is, involved and up to speed, and so if we could, if there's nothing to report, kind of like the ballot initiative, we can say, oh, there's nothing to report, but I think just having it as a standing
Yeah, we
item for our
definitely can, I
agenda
can
would
do,
be
I can make sure I'm
awesome.
tying with Taylor, or have her show up, it's, with her volunteer piece, she's always doing odd schedules and stuff, so I hate just asking her just to be here, but I'd be
bring
glad to.
people from the community that you're
Yeah.
working on, working with, just so we can hear from them too.
Yeah, so it was a fun time too on top of it, so.
Yeah.
Good. Is everybody else in Colorado jealous of you?
Yeah, I don't know how many people know about it yet, but if anyone knew about it, I think they should be. I felt we were a pretty unique situation to do something pretty special for our community, and hopefully that we'll, have our internal leadership recognize what an important thing it is, so we can really kind of highlight that.
I'm excited. I kind of felt like we've been lagging behind Lafayette.
Yeah, I would say.
Which is,
yes.
considering Lafayette's this big,
So
I
you
feel
went the
like
way- yes.
we've been lagging in our outreach, in our equity, in our, in our mobilizing, and so I'm so excited.
So I was going to another way and say, we're not alone in this though either, where we're at right now. I think we keep using the same tools. We haven't been with Boulder County as long as that I was. It's the same thing. How do we do it? We kept trying to sit in that room and come up with ideas that would work for them.
It's really hard.
It is.
It's a lot of work, but we can't give up.
Right.
That's the thing, is we can't give up.
And going back to this, I think, I hope before this, with our new park,
Nino Park, I don't know.
Park.
I thought it was Gaio, and then
so-
you're telling me they're I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
everybody's like, it's Gaio.
I'm gonna go Gaio now too, until we
Until we get
go back to
corrected.
watch our video, so I get
Rooster
corrected
Park?
again. Yes. I really do think we pushed to try to get out there at the beginning, and then there was that gap, that. And I think for us, really trying to have that push to get things done and then step back, I think that was a hard piece to do as well. So I think, having this momentum and stuff right now, it is hard for me to say we're going to start sort of knowing that Stephanie and Scott is really going out to bid right now. So it's really not to see it's going to get kicked down the road a little bit again, but I think we have opportunities coming up to really do a lot more and a lot better.
That's not the only area that is underrepresented in Longmont. So
Right, exactly.
And so that's great that we're doing that. Yeah, I'm excited.
Great.
Sorry, going
Thanks
to
for
Austin.
reporting back
Yeah.
on that.
Did you see bats?
No, that was, just to tell you, it was either bats or barbecue for me. I chose barbecue.
I don't know if it's okay for me. I don't know. I'm never good at timing and what to do, but the city of Boulder has on their websites, and you're I'm comparing us to Boulder, but they have something cool that ties into all this and ties into that park and everything. And I'm trying to, so city of, their parks and rec facilities, you just pop in and you just pop on any park, and I went to one I didn't even know. I'm Arrowwood Park, and on every single one of their websites, you go in the park and you look at the amenities, and at the bottom, in every single one, nature play opportunities. And it talks about the nature play opportunities and everything, and that I like that. And it's not hard, and we could do it.
Right.
Because we do have nature play opportunities a lot of places, but a lot of people don't know how to access it. And it could show us how, it could show that we're really committed to that now, and there's more commitment to that. And every park has a nature, tells you how people can engage with nature.
Excellent. And I'll go back to another piece too, that I do think Longmont, historically, even though we're learning more, we're doing more, you know, having neighborhood parks that reflected that neighborhood isn't always gonna have the same elements, especially as like when they were designed. But our system really has a great way to get people comfortable in their neighborhood park with a trail system that gets them to now a Dickens Park. And Dickens Park is a place where you can touch and play, and actually that nature play area, our forestry crew deliver sticks and logs out there so the kids have stuff to play with too. That trail then, once you feel comfortable there, gets you on a trail out to Sandstone or out to Golden Ponds. So I think, you know, that we can do that idea of educating kids that really say, you know, and I think that's another piece I learned too, that we're always saying what nature is. And you talked about, they want more soccer fields and they want more shelters, they want more stuff for family, and that's where they feel comfortable. And we just automatically say, no, you have to go on a little island in the middle of the river and play with sticks. That can feel pretty foreign and unsafe. So to get them educated and comfortable in their neighborhood parks, teach them about the built-in trail systems we have that really can move people from their neighborhood to the next level. And then ultimately, the system will be from their neighborhood park to a community park, to a Dickens Park, to a Sandstone Ranch, tying into the state park eventually. So I see great opportunities, and that's where I think, you know, maybe ours looks a little bit different than Boulder, where it's not every park is the same, but it's like, how do you get to more nature from this spot? Here's what we offer here, but now we have greater opportunities as you move throughout our system. And we're actually doing some web page design updates, and I was volunteered to yeah, on that team, and I think those are great ways that we can start looking at some of those things other communities are doing to do a better job.
Yeah, I mean, like some of theirs are pretty lame, I'll tell you. Their nature play opportunities, like you can play in the sandbox. You know, but like what I mean, but the effort is that it just shows the commitment
Right.
to that. So
We have been working on the information on our parks pages, and we've made some traction there as well. So we have some more up-to-date information on the website, so check it out sometime. There's points of contact for every project manager on every park project, and we have some photos and.
Cool.
I won't say it's perfect, but it's better than it was.
when we get a whole bunch more parks online, I'll design a scavenger hunt for families that we can roll out to go to the different parks.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
Okay, any items from the board? Scott?
I want to just express my appreciation for detour signs. Those got up last week, so I'm excited to see if those are there. It sounds like there'll be timber across South Bowen Street for the railroad crossing as well. I did have someone in the community though, I guess talk to the Hildebrands, and they said they maintain the crusher fine path, and I wanted to see if that was actually true, because they asked for it to be de-weeded and have this community gardening group do it, and I didn't know what the relationship was in terms of, I know we have that right of way that we're using their property for that little pathway there on like the end of First Avenue, but I didn't know who was maintaining it.
I might have to follow up this, it is a little complicated area over in that,
Okay.
in that area, so I can follow up on that for you.
Okay, cool, thanks.
This is the path just to the
Yeah.
north of the railroad tracks from
Yeah.
From
Sunset to
First
the
Avenue.
east, yeah, okay.
It's
I know what you mean.
Right.
Yeah, right, right.
Right,
It started this, you can't see it.
yeah.
Are you know the Hildebrands, is that weird
That
complex
Complex
of
is out there,
house?
it's a
Yeah, it looks like a,
incorporated county still.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so yeah, they had just expressed that, you know, they're getting older and they needed someone to help maintain it, and it came from somebody who's a super volunteer in the neighborhood, and I was like, I thought the city was doing some of that, laying down crusher fines and X, Y, Z,
Right.
but, you know, before we get volunteers jumping in on it, let's figure out who can do what. You know.
So I have a question, I think it might be for you, David, but status of e-bikes on paths? I've seen so many like almost terrible interactions between e-bikes and pedestrians, and even e-bikes and regular bikes.
I think it's one of the things that we've kind of avoided. It's a piece out there that I think that we've watched other communities who were kind of waiting to see what they were doing. And I think as the Ranger program has grown, it's something that we really need to start looking at. But historically,
Just
me
even talking
personally,
on paved paths.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I do think that, looking at e-bikes now a little differently, that as far as equity and ability for people to use our park systems, and as long as our trail system is, that having e-bikes within their systems is something that just makes sense. Is you're looking at people that are, commuting, using it as for low, low carbon offset, cheaper means of transportation. It is something I don't think we're gonna get away from, but I think the ability to regulate what types of e-bikes are on our trail, and then you start getting
How
things,
fast? It's
how
about
fast.
speed.
It really is, and as we looked at that, here's the challenge we get into. It's like, should we put up speed signs? If you put up speed signs, then you have rangers sitting there with radar guns, and unfortunately, it's a lot like ski areas. It's really when there's gonna be, it's who's gonna be at fault if there's a problem. So I think, we're really looking at how, if we set regulations in place, having regulations, we wanna have authority to really do something with it. It doesn't do a whole lot just to say this is regulation, because even people complaining that you have a regulation, no one's doing anything. If we don't have staff for it, we don't have tools for it, it can be a challenge. But it's something that I do think we need to start looking closer at. But it's not just the e-bikes. There are, believe me, there are people in spandex and helmets and road bikes on those trails without any electric, assistance that are flying down those trails.
It's not just those. Actually, it's not the fast cyclist, it's not the Scott that's flying because he can, right? A lot of times it's people just going beyond their speed of capability and control. So it's maybe somebody who, they're like ring, ring frantically
I
because
know.
they're going too fast for them to stop. If I trip and fall,
Right.
while I'm running, then I'm gonna make,
Yeah. If you don't mind me chiming in, this falls into transportation board, because we talk about, what do we do? Vision Zero says zero deaths. Pedestrians and bicyclists sometimes lead to deaths. So right now, as part of Vision Zero, we're talking about separating the two, separating pedestrians from bicycle trails. We also have bicycle trails on the street, and we'd like to have those protected. So in other words, a barrier or whatever between bicyclists and what have you, and then maybe move the pedestrians into more of the park where there's maybe more of a foot trail, that kind of thing. So it's clear, this is pedestrian, and this is bicycle. There's a bit of a super highway on this.
It does, and I think that's one of the challenges right now as we start designing. I think one of the things that's kind of nice with us all working for Joni now in that same arena, that, you probably work with Phil over transportation a little bit too, but if you look at Spring Gulch we just did, I don't think there's any, we typically put a soft surface walkable trail next to that, but we don't have them really set out that it is again, Austin, they do have that set out where you have to pay attention to it on the green bike area or not. But in our system, our walkers, if we make that change pretty abruptly, they love walking 2 and 3 abreast as they're having conversations, and shifting over to a soft surface trail on the side. I think there's be some questions there on how do we help educate that, if that's where we're gonna go with this.
Yeah. Or finding just like a divising line isn't
Right.
working, and so.
Well, those are great things I think that we'll need
and
to,
there's gonna be a task force to help with that and with the community.
and this would be the great group to be working with, because they're
Yeah.
working on a lot of the
But
regional
as I
trails.
said to begin with, I think
Yeah.
we have some overlap where we need to work together.
I wonder if starting with just the share the road yield signs, because I don't know, people think that because they ring their bell that like I'm fast, I'm like a lightning runner. No, I'm not. But that people have to move out of their way or whatever, and they don't actually. It's and so some of those shared road sign, along some of the zoomy fast things.
As we continue to grow and continue to have these pieces, is, having again the ability, when I was at the county, we had Share the Trail days where we'd have rangers out on bike and equestrians, and we'd have people out there that had the pedestrian mode, and we'd be talking to people at trailheads about what that really meant. We had the triangle with the Share the Trail, and the, again, I think people, like you say, it's really, they ring their bell or they yell on your left, and what's the person do? They step left.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I'm glad to hear transportation's
Yeah,
talking about it
glad
too.
to
I
hear.
just think that, you know, I'm seeing more and more, you know, kids my son's age, so that you've got 12, 13, 14-year-olds out there on things that can go 40 miles an hour.
Right.
And they're not able to do that safely. And so I think just getting ahead of it, get communication out there, you know, like be thinking about what that means.
My bike's not
So
40
Tom,
miles.
yeah.
And just to tie into a couple elements from tonight, like multiple boards maybe tying together, figuring out some joint things. These are actually I'd say actually every concern addressed here tonight was either brought up by another board or was addressed like as one of the key issues during the transport. My tongue's all tied up, but the steering committee that I went and attended, like as a part of the parks member. Yeah, we were both there. Yeah, and so we did get to see that Vision Zero is going ahead and the street dieting and all of the different elements. They didn't really tackle one particular thing, but they did actually bring up pretty much every single one of the 13-year-olds on a vehicle that can do 35 miles an hour. And if you got a key, you can make it do 45 now. So yeah. So all of those
I thought it
things.
was 28 was the limit.
They've got ones that you can basically. I forget what they call the key, but you can pop it in and it just removes the electronic limiter.
Yeah.
Just goes to whatever the motor can spec out to.
I see.
Yeah.
The class ones, there's 20,
Yeah.
28, and 20.
Right, and that's where I think you have limited the class you can have on
Right.
the trails.
Huh.
On golf carts, we reduce them because people are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has transportation then talked about having speed limits or driving at a safe speed for your ability? I mean, that's really
Well,
hard
we've
piece.
had that arm wrestle for a long time between regulation and practical concerns. And right now, we're sitting at, we really need to have separation and barrier, you know, and I'm talking about like between bicyclists and automobiles, but also pedestrians, because pedestrians and bicyclists don't mix well.
No.
You know, and they tend to, pedestrians walk in front of bicyclists, I don't know why, and it's always like kids, you know. And there's a big danger of injury.
Right.
You see half of those end up in fatalities, so.
Have we had a lot of injuries? That's what I think. Have we had a lot of bike versus pedestrian injuries on our actual bike paths so far? I mean,
But they're not necessarily on the paths in the park system, but definitely on the streets. And I would tell you that our death rate is 7 times what it is in Boulder. And Boulder's been doing Vision Zero since I think about 2012, so we're a little behind, but we're gonna catch up, I think,
Right.
because we have a lot of municipalities to learn from, so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other items from the board? Dan?
I had several different people from the tennis community ask me, because they knew that there was a meeting coming up. One was, the lights at parks don't always go on soon enough, now that it's getting dark. Is that a, the LTA publishes a phone number at the 8416, you know, or if there's a
Right,
net problem,
yeah.
or
That's-
is that where it
yes.
go to?
And that will go to.
Is that a
temporary
timer thing, or is that a darkness thing?
It
What
should be,
sense
I
is?
believe it's a timer, it's not a photo.
Yeah, which right now is changing rapidly,
Yeah.
but, you know, this
it's
person
dark at
wanted,
noon.
I
right
feels
now.
like it,
No,
doesn't
no,
it?
no.
Man, you know, anyway, okay, I'll tell them to go to their, make a complaint there. The LTA board had a meeting recently, and they have money, not a lot of money, but some money. Remind me, that's a preface to, remind me, how did Quail tennis courts get built? Was that a city-only thing, or did LTA help somehow with that?
I think it was city only.
Well, the LTA wonders if they could put some seed money in to get either more walls built or the shelter built at Quail. Is that a, you know, public partnership? Could they do something here? I mean, we don't have a lot of money, we meaning the LTA people, but like I said, but last month, the complaints that we got were filtered around, a lot of them were, it's friggin' hot, and where's the shade? And we had those easy ups and all that kind of thing. But you know, that was part of the original vision for Quail, was to have a pavilion or a something, you know, a tent, whatever. And if there's talk of a pickleball facility down that way somewhere that's gonna have this same issue. So I'm not sure if that's, they asked me to ask you or to ask who to talk to.
Well, I think we can certainly talk with them about that. You know, the amount of money is going to matter. The shelter's gonna be fairly expensive.
Right,
But we certainly can talk and see what their interest is, and then David and I can report back to them on what we can or cannot do.
well, I expressed that the shelter is expensive and it's pushed out to whatever, it's not even on the current plan. It's at least 5 years away.
Right.
And so that, and I think they realize that even with some money, it's not enough to even
Yeah.
put a dent in that. So I think short term, they'd be more interested in more walls, like at Quail. And remind me, what did that cost at Car Park, for example, the most recent one?
I don't remember
Just
that.
plain walls to hit against?
Yes,
Rebound
Yeah.
wall?
yes.
We can
Which
check
maybe
on-
this,
check on that.
your new park with a quasi handball court, suddenly you paint a little stripe 3 feet off the
That's
ground
what-
and
yeah.
it's a tennis court practice thing, you know?
Well, on the opposite side, like at the Falter Park, there's handball on one side and a basketball court on the other side is tennis. Against-
Right, and actually people use both sides for tennis.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not a very good wall because it's kind of pockmarky, so it's fun if you like
Especially on
to
the
chase.
basketball side, where
I
the
know.
basketball can sit and chip it, yeah.
Right.
What about shade sales?
There are those, I put them up personally.
Okay,
There's one spot where the fences are close enough together to do that, but it's not very convenient. You have to be right there. They're not very big, you know, compared to a pavilion. So,
But those are expensive too. We have some of those at Sunset Pool. And because you can't put a neighborhood one up, it has to be commercial, which then requires that it has to be able to meet 120 mile an hour winds, that those numbers
You
start
need
getting.
snow loader,
Yeah.
take them down.
no, the ones I put up were nothing like what he's talking about.
okay. I was thinking about the doesn't Jim Ham have something like that? I'm thinking of- I don't know.
Well, we
Kind
just
of a-
ordered some from Amazon and I got turnbuckles and I put them up there, but they're not gonna put up with 120 mile
I
an
have
hour
some old-
winds.
I have some
And
old
they'll-
sheets too.
Well, that's kind of what we did, just to get, but it's still, it's nothing
No,
like what
I
you
mean,
would
I
really.
get what you're talking about.
yeah.
Actually, I feel like,
This meeting's-
shade is needed pretty desperately there by, like recreation and the museum, like all the summer programs, like just even, like
Yeah, it's
just
just,
stop
you
and have
know,
a
it's-
snack.
We live in
Shade.
Colorado, it's hot, right?
You wanna talk about, you wanna blow that out of the even, on what we're discussing?
Today.
Yeah, today,
Oh.
this was a morning meeting in this room at 9:00.
So there was a grant for, it's extreme
Extreme
heat. So in order to provide shade specific to us in parks and areas like that for residents that don't have access to air conditioning in their homes, a place to get respite during the summer, there's an opportunity to get some of these grant dollars, and we're working with our sustainability team on this effort to put in some better shade elements or cooling elements within park spaces. Initially, they had done a heat map of Longmont, and the area in the greatest need, which was their initial focus, was the Kensington Park, Spangler, and Lanyon Park neighborhoods. I think they're called park districts, or neighborhood districts, anyway. So we were talking about some ideas with shade sales and whatnot, over playgrounds, but not like what was installed over Garden Acres playground, because that was burned. And then it melted onto the playground equipment, which then sustained damage as well.
Wow.
But the type at Kanimoto, which is really, it looks like a tall umbrella. It's
Right.
not a lot of shade, but we came up with some interesting ideas that we're gonna vet to see what kind of costs we're talking, to put in some new elements over some playgrounds, over some benched areas where people sit and watch their kids play, potential misting elements or splash pads. But these structures being one of those big discussion points. So we're working with Angela with Art in Public Places to see if we could do some custom designed shade structures that would provide like a model like a tree would. But it would still be a nice place to go and get some respite from the heat. But all of those discussions, so we walked away from that meeting today with some next steps on just quantifying what do we think this is gonna take. I know that the sustainability team to capture dollars in '24, will be doing those applications the first part of December, so we're under a bit of a crunch getting all of the information we're gonna need. But hearing this helps, maybe there's some opportunities
Right.
for that.
And maybe there is, like, to even get more grant money, what if the shades were, generated power by
We talked
using-
about that as
yeah,
well, some
like
solar.
some solar or some wind turbine,
Mhm.
power, that would
That was a discussion that
Okay, good.
David had brought up as well.
be fun.
I think the other pieces for the, bringing dollars to the table, other pieces will build a challenge on that. Again, great team here, but that would be the group, working on that shelter area out of Quail, so how do we incorporate that? And I'll put myself
Well,
out there and say,
realistically-
but really, if you look at that 8 and 5, and we will be looking at the Quail campus for the pickleball expansion of it, it may be something we could roll into that at least.
Ah, gotcha.
So if we're gonna have, I feel Stephanie staring at me over my shoulder here, but if we're gonna have a RFP going out and it's gonna be that same area, we're mobilizing people at spot, it feels like we'd be missing an opportunity if we didn't at least look at that spot.
What about, until that happens, a lending program, because we have our lending library, a lending program, that people can check out a shade shelter, like
That's a wrap.
You mean like an easy up type thing?
Yeah, like an easy up, but a bigger one, because, people can afford the $99 one, you know what I mean? But a bigger shade shelter like that you could check out from the library or from the rec program or whatever, and you could, give them your driver's license and check it out
Huh.
for 2 days.
Yeah.
Just need money.
Yeah. Graduation parties, I'm picturing that would be very popular.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah, but like, and
The
for your
library
tennis
currently-
tournament.
The library checks out like camping
All
equipment and
kinds of
stuff like
stuff.
that.
They
They
could
check
do
out all
it, yeah.
sorts of stuff like that.
Huh.
So shade shelter could,
Just talk with the library.
Yeah.
Sweet. I will talk to the library.
okay, great,
I'm going to their staff meeting Wednesday.
There's a library guy.
awesome.
Well, the tennis people, they would like it 6 days a week, because there's league matches virtually every night, and there's stuff going on every Saturday, all day, every Sunday, that kind of thing. So they visualize a permanent shelter, which was kind of, they thought, part of the deal when Quail was originally built. So that's where
Okay.
they're coming from. And I think realistically, they don't have nearly enough money to make a dent in what the city would spend. More realistically would be another wall or two at Quail or somewhere else. So if you could find out for me
Yeah.
what that one in Car Park,
Yeah.
and duplicate that somewhere else, maybe they, cost share or whatever, or they have some idea of what, oh, oops, never mind, there's a lot more money than we had guessed. I mean, those folks don't seem to know. But I expressed that I think a building is gonna be way more money than they realize. So, anyway, those two things came to me from, I already brought up the swimming thing about Centennial Pool.
Great. So we have, if there's any more, we have like 8 minutes left before we have to vote to extend our meeting.
I have one more real, just.
Okay, we got 8 minutes.
It took me less than I hoped. I want to follow them backboards at Quail, the lights on the timing with that, e-bikes with kind of the ranges, maybe get with transportation, see what you're doing, make sure we're not having two divergent sort of conversations, and make sure we're really focusing on this. And then make sure I get Taylor to have me an update. I feel like I committed to one other thing. Is anyone gonna tell me I missed
Well,
something?
you said Thorn.
Mhm.
You're gonna check in with Adriana on the pronunciation of that part.
Well, it's done, yeah.
And then what
Or
about,
Gallo.
an ongoing item.
Nino Gallo Park.
Oh, it was, thank you.
Spring
It was this, it
Oh,
was a trail.
for the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's,
Oh, yeah.
I am, yes, sir.
Hildebrand's.
Thank you.
Thank you, I knew there was one other thing. See, that was less than 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else? Anyone wants to squeeze in?
I can tell you if it's helpful that I'm placing a shelter right now and it's $80,000 for the structure of 12 by 24, and that's just the structure. That's not the pad that goes underneath. That's not building it.
Okay, thanks, that helps. I mean, at least an order of magnitude gives me an idea, right?
could make one.
Wow.
You can always make one cheaper.
Yeah.
Let's survive when people light things on
Jeff, do
fire.
we really only have
Yeah.
two people wanting to be on this board with 3 slots.
I'll go check with my
And
insights.
both of them
Well, that's what I was
are,
gonna ask if there's any updates. I mean, you didn't have any applications other than our existing.
Correct, and
Mhm.
so we didn't have to do interviews.
Right.
I sent a recommendation with Nick and Scott to be reappointed.
Well, thank you for recommending.
that's amazing to me. The times I've applied, there's waiting lists. I mean, there was 6 or 8
Yeah.
people every time. That's amazing.
4 on Callahan House Board, 7.
Wow.
I think when I applied, there was like 12 people that
Yeah,
interviewed for
that's amazing.
my spot.
Usually the parking
Yeah,
rec board
it's a
is
big
one
deal.
of the biggest, yeah.
Again, I think it's the falling off of the newspaper system.
Yep, I agree.
There's just, the community doesn't share info like it used to.
Yeah.
There's not a repository.
Yep.
Right, it's funny.
And I would,
Maybe we're old
I
fashioned.
was gonna say, are we in
Right.
different
We
nations?
Could be.
have fallen
Out the
off
Right.
You know what,
the
you
sharing.
should put it on
I think more
you know.
information is shared than ever before,
I do
but
too.
You know,
I
the
think.
one-
But there's not a single spot
I never saw
anymore.
it on there.
It's a
Yeah.
bazillion
I never saw
spots.
that, but like up at the top, like, hey, wanna be on the Parks and Recreation
My son
Advisory
keeps
Board?
telling me that I have no.
So it'll be June before that'll happen again.
It's
Okay,
like, you can tell you're old when you say Google it.
all right.
It's like-
Council.
How long must I be off before I could reapply?
I think it's
A
1
year is
year,
what I
yeah.
understood. Okay.
You retired.
It's a cooling off period.
Yeah, so 3 years for you.
Yeah, no tennis for 1 year. We'll never bring up tennis for an entire year at this point. He's gonna
If only
be
there
over
wasn't-
here. just
Yeah, I'll
like
be back
tennis.
there. Actually, I'll be doing other people back there. You guys think pickleball is loud. No, the tennis people are generally pleased because they look at Boulder and other cities that our courts are getting scraped or repainted, and tennis is doing okay by staying the course, which is around, you see pickleball, it's incredible. So, I think most of the tennis folks feel like, hey, we're okay. I mean, we're busy as heck, the courts are full, but pickleball is just running roughshod all over. I mean, Boulder is horrible for tennis right now, and it's getting worse, so could be worse.
All right. Need a motion to adjourn?
Do we meet in December?
Yes,
We do, okay.
yes. So you got one more before you're off the hook.
Is there a Bronco game then? Because this was great to miss. It was great to miss the Bronco game.
I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
Okay, cool. There we
All those
go.
in favor?
Alright.
All right, meeting adjourned.